Good morning and welcome to the City of Keystone Heights Budget Finance meeting for the month of August. It's August 25th at 10 a.m. Welcome to our meeting. I want to call the meeting to order and start out with our invocation. Mr. Booth.
Y'all join me in a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we once again thank you for bringing us all together to discuss important topics of the city, particularly today, Lord, as we work through the budget for this year and next year, Lord. We just ask for your guidance and your blessing on the decisions made here that'll go forward to the city council, Lord. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Dusty.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Booth, you give us a roll call.
Mayor Rodenhoff.
Here.
Councilman Lewandowski.
Here.
And Mayor, you have everybody you need.
All right. No public comments, I see.
Nope, there are no members of the public in the room, and we have no submitted written comments.
Okay, great. We have the consent agenda. Have you read through that, Dan? How do you feel about it?
I have one comment. If we could just change the very top of the minutes, it says the meeting started at 9 a.m. The meeting actually started at 10 a.m. That was the only thing I saw. Okay.
It's weird because the title on it shows 10 a.m. on the PDF.
I think it's probably a cut and paste issue from the previous meeting, which we
Yeah.
started an hour earlier
It's
than the previous
little-
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the title on it says 10, so just a minor, little thing, right?
It is. I just like this to look good.
All right, are we all good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Minutes
ma'am.
agreement. Thanks, guys. Action items, July financials.
All
And,
right, Madam Mayor,
you
we'll cover the
gave us a
financials
attachment
document.
of this. Yep.
I'll just give you all a quick summary by account. Looking good. In the general fund, just overall for revenue, we've received 1.48 million of a projected 1.36. So more revenue coming in than we'd expected by this time of year. And that's really just because we received more in our property tax revenue earlier in the year than we'd expected to come in per month. So we have a little more than projected. On the expenses side, we are expended at 1.45 million of a projected 1.42. So about $30,000 over what we thought we'd be at this year. And likely most of that, I didn't go digging into specifically, is some cost increases. Well, either cost increases or misassessment of what the health insurance and FRS is likely. It's hard to tell what contributes to all of that, and it's all of what we guess. Our rough estimates at the beginning of the year, how much we projected coming, or how much we projected on expenses. But at this point in the year, it'd only be within 30,000. What we were expecting is pretty good on a 1.6 million budget. So, unless you'll have questions. What I will say on the general fund is later in the meeting, what I've done, and Councilman Lewandowski, you brought this up months ago, is do a kind of an end of year amendment to get us pretty clean as we approach the end of the fiscal year. So I have done that. This will be corrected. This offset should come in much closer once we get that applied. But that amendment that we're going to talk about, that won't, it'll go before the city council in September. It'll just make sure that our books are clean right at the end of the year, as accurate as we can expect. I'll pause if you all have any questions on the general fund.
I do. On the income side, item 360109, miscellaneous other income. This is twice. This is 105,000, 106,000 compared to expected amount of 52,000. I'm curious if you happen to know.
I can give you a rough summary of it. But 60,000 of that is the income that we've received over the last couple of months as the grant repayments for the comprehensive planning grant. So that's 60,000 of it. We have subsequently learned and built in the amendment that we need to create an income line specific to each grant. And so in the amended budget, that 60,000 comes out and sits in its own grant income line. And then other income in here on top of that 60,000 that was unexpected or not budgeted, even in the mid-year amendment, was a $5,000 safety grant that came in from our insurance company, a return of $10,800 from FMIT, so our previous insurer, when they did their audit of our previous fiscal year. They likely based on our estimates of our labor, we're overestimates, and by law they have to return. If we don't execute that labor, they reduce the amount that they charge us on the insurance. So we got that insurance back. And there was another one, and I'm just blanking on that.
500,000 per.
Oh, it was another insurance return.
Yeah.
It was our workman's comp. So we've been working for a year. Tiffany's been working with PGIT in coordination with FMIT, our previous. When we entered into our current insurance, we knew our workman's comp modification rate was too high. They were holding our modification rate above it, like 1.6, because of an accident/injury that was old and should have been removed. It took us the better part of a year to get that issue removed, which brought our mod rate down to 0.96. And then that brings our workman's comp insurance was $23,000 or $24,000 a year. That change in the mod rate reduced our annual insurance workman's comp to $18,000 or $19,000, and that other $5,000 that's sitting in there is a refund that brings us down for the next 3 years to that changed modification rate. So those are the 60, 70, 80,000 of that. That's off the top of my head. That's what I can remember.
Yeah, so I look forward to the amendment proposal with the grant money coming in, so that shows up nicely that way. I like to show our constituents that we're advocating for and getting money from the state and this kind of things.
So we can hit that in a little bit later on down, but we're certainly learning because that's the first time this team's dealt with revenue from a grant. So we're getting better at it. So what we've done in the future, in the adjustment, the amended budget and next year's budget, any grants that we think we may get in, there's zero, but we've put a budget line in there for that revenue.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, having that detail is a little bit more work for you, but then we know more about what's happening. And if for some reason one of us disappears, it's evident to whoever follows on.
Yes, sir. Moving on to the infrastructure fund. So revenue is at 183,000 out of a projected 203. However, with the income lines for the infrastructure fund, it's when the state sends it to us, typically a chunk of it doesn't get accounted for until the next month. So I think we're about on target. It'll correct itself as we move into the next month. It's weird how the state pays us, but it lags a little bit from what we built in the expected revenue line. And then expenses are at 336,000 of a projected 602,000. That's due to numerous projects progressing much slower than we projected. For example, we didn't move out on any septic to sewer. Nightingale culvert process has taken a lot longer than we had thought. Though we did receive 210,000 from the state. We haven't in the budget. We didn't expend a lot of the construction funds that we thought we would be expending throughout the year. The flood vulnerability study was built in the budget. I want to say 200,000 in the initial budget draft, or 150,000. We'll only likely expend roughly about 50,000 in this fiscal year. And sidewalk repairs, we haven't got as much done as we budgeted 50,000. We've only done about $7,000 of grinding, though. We'll catch up on some of that here over the next month, but not all the way up to the budgeted 50,000. So, though it's just, it's taken us a lot longer to do a lot of these projects than we thought, or change the way we're funding them.
So, I've tagged 4 projects here because of the size. That's the Nightingale, the ADA sidewalk, the other sidewalk, and the 50,000, which was, you said what? 50,000 set aside was for what?
Florida the
Floodplain study?
Floodplains.
I'm trying to catch up, trying to get onto that account real quick. My hard copy. Yep.
I really like how you've got them all specifically outlined, you know, showing the cost. I just think that's a good practice, you know, just to show what those specific dollars are going to, in case there's any questions.
I'm just wondering, we basically only have 5 weeks and we're done.
Mhm.
You know, are we gonna spend any significant chunks before then?
What's left out of these, let me just look. Nightingale covered, not likely to spend any more on it. We're still waiting. That one, almost, that expense goes, effectively will go to zero to the actual city. Because once we get that grant, well, it'll be a reimbursable grant, but none of that will be expended until the next fiscal year. And so I'll have to look when we go into the updated or amended budget, but I'm pretty sure I zeroed that one out on how it would expend this year. And it'll all be in next year's. The Resilient Florida Flood Vulnerability will hit about right around 50,000 by the end of the fiscal year, and the remaining 150,000 has been budgeted into fiscal year 26-27. The sidewalk repair, we will definitely get about another 7,500, potentially up to 10,000 done in grinding, and likely just shy of around 10,000 done in sidewalk repair by September. But we won't get the full 50,000 executed. In the amendment, if I remember correctly, I brought it down to $25,000 budgeted for that line item in the amendment. And ADA sidewalk, maybe $5,000 to $10,000 in design. I got to double check what I did on the amended budget on that one, but certainly not any expected construction. With the low water levels and Solo decided that they were not going to move forward with putting the dock in until water levels start to recover. This is a much lower priority than when we went in and budgeted for this a year ago. And sidewalk construction won't execute. Won't have any execution on the sidewalk construction this fiscal year.
Are we gonna get a chance to see the amended budget on the Budget and Finance Committee before it goes before the entire?
It's in this stack. The spreadsheet, it's got the color codes.
Yep. The one that was item number 10, is that right?
Okay, that's the
That's the
budget
draft
for
budget?
next year, that's not.
It is both.
That's
So-
not the amended budget for this.
So what I did, just to keep things simple, is you'll see the FY 25-26 September amended budget is the second to last line.
I missed that.
And then the proposed budget for the fiscal year 26-27 is the last column in the list.
Okay.
And it just makes it a lot easier to look at how things change. I started to do them as two separate, and then I think
No,
it
I
makes more
kind
sense.
of like it together like that.
Yeah,
It makes
no,
it
that's
easier to
good.
compare.
I just got it this morning,
Well,
so I haven't
these
had
are-
anything to look at it. Okay.
And we can walk through those line items, council. I'll pause on infrastructure fund. Any other?
For some reason, I thought when we did our amendment back in May, that we were closer to our actual numbers. We're still pretty far off. Did we just miss a lot of stuff, or?
Councilman, I'd be honest, as I'm trying to remember back a couple of months, I don't know if I've spent as much time looking in the amendment on the infrastructure fund. I'm gonna go take a look at it right now.
Even with the general fund, we're pretty far off.
It looks like I did go through it. And yeah, so
Well, I thought we all went through it pretty good.
more realistic, I guess I was continue to over assume what we get done from May till then.
Okay. All right, I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
Cemetery.
Cemetery. Catch up on the hard copies. Okay, so for revenue for the cemetery, we're having more lot and niche sales at $53,000 income for revenue, and we had projected $42,000. On the expense side, we've expended $79,000 of a projected $109,000. Most of that is due to, there's a line item in there, I want to say I did a $50,000 budget line item for road repair, road network repair. We just have not we just haven't expended any effort trying to do any work on the roads out there.
That was my one question, is that moving to next year?
It is at a much lower dollar value. I think, as I looked at it, when I was looking at it a year ago, I was looking at, do we potentially, do a single wide road through most of that cemetery. I think how it's performing now is just fine. That cemetery is looking amazing. We do need to get out there on that one area where you come in from I'm looking at it, from the west side, in between the old cemetery and the new cemetery, there's a hill, a small hill, but it's a small sandy hill which keeps getting rutted and run out. That's the one we still need to get in and fix. We just put more priority and effort over the last year getting the cemetery building up to snuff, and it's tip top now. So it was just we did not get as far on the road work as we hoped.
So it looks like for next year's draft budget, you have $7,000 for road repairs, and for the September amended budget, you still have $10,000 in, even though it looks like we're going to spend nothing.
That's probably true. I don't remember. I was going through a lot of budget line items. I knew we wouldn't get as much done. I think one of the potentials I was leaving in here is we may need to get our engineers to look at it and give us some design and cost estimating type of work on it. That's why I think I left the $10,000 in there. I think it's more significant of a repair than let's just go in and throw some millings or
Whatever that's.
lime rock in there and just compact it. It's just going to keep happening. We're going to have to do some structural work in there to redirect water if we're going to do a long-term fix. And that's one of the reasons why we have not done a whole lot of work, because I want to make sure if we're going to spend the time to go in there and fix it, we do it right the first time.
A consideration, you decide, you're going to be swamped here at the end of the fiscal year. Rather than add another thing to your plate, such as design or engineering work for the cemetery during September, push it off to next fiscal year. And
Okay.
a suggestion, kill the $10,000, put it in the next fiscal year.
Do that.
Give yourself a little bit of breathing. You're a busy man.
It's an understatement.
Yeah. Well, and this is something that can wait.
I'm just taking notes. Yep.
Just an idea, you decide.
I think you're right. I always like to be over optimistic on what we're going to get done.
Well,
but I will tell you, Bo and Matt done a lot of work. If you haven't driven by there,
It looks amazing. It looks the best it's ever looked that I've seen.
absolutely.
I mean, everything outside looks great.
We've got really all that's left out there is that road issue, and then we've got a lot of fence that's just had numerous trees fall through it, and we just haven't fixed it over the years. Those are probably over the next year, the next set of work out of the cemetery.
okay.
Moving on to the CRA fund. Revenue is at 183. Hold on, that looks way too much like the infrastructure. Let me just double check it.
Now you're looking at the July spreadsheet?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Look, I'm sorry. I was looking at my two notes. It's funny that the infrastructure and CRA is almost the exact same number, but revenue and executed up through July is 182,000 of a projected, or 183 of 183 when you round. Expenses are at 198,000 of a projected 397,000. I didn't spend too much time double checking this, but mainly a lot of that is due to, the big chunk of that is we had budgeted $150,000-160,000 for museum work. Since we've delayed our process and looked at other ways of funding that, the large majority of that was unexpended. The only thing we spent on that was a cost estimating on the value of the firehouse or the volunteer fire department, and some grant work through one of our engineering firms. So that's the largest chunk that's unexpended against that. And that shows in the infrastructure facilities. The museum's not specifically called out in the budget line item.
Do you expect any larger amounts expended in the next 5 weeks?
No. Looking at those, I don't think we've got anything major that's going to come in.
And I'll just be a broken record. Gross profit. Whatever you can do to try to fix that, I appreciate it.
Do you recall our conversation from last time?
I
Yes, sir.
read all the notes from the previous meeting. I'm still gonna say we should be budget surplus. So, I understand, I'm just gonna ask you to keep that thought process going.
Yes, sir.
If the opportunity presents itself, please change it.
Well, I think the problem with that is the communication, and it's not just about us, it's about the county and the state communications. And when people use certain words and nomenclature for certain items, that word sticks to whatever that subject matter is.
Sure.
And it's like moving a building, they give a set word and it is what it is. Whether we like it or not, it's just the common of the business practice, I guess. I agree, I don't think it sounds great, but I think you gotta change more than the city here to do that. Because again, we have communications that we have to make throughout the county. It's difficult enough for communications. If we don't use the proper terminology, it makes more confusion and it causes things to lag. So I don't think we have, I agree, but I don't think there's much we can do about it. Unless they all cohesively decide we're gonna call it something else. And that's not within our power. Maybe we can have the input. But that might be a good question for Howard, and ask him what they think about that. It's like,
I think the biggest thing that comes down to this one is we're just using a commercial off-the-shelf
Right.
QuickBooks.
Yep.
I guarantee you the county's got a refined municipal budgeting document that's a little more flexible on what they use and the terminologies in their system. I try to state revenues and expenses whenever we're summarizing.
okay, are we done with July?
I'm just a philosophy of be the squeaky wheel. If you don't squeak, no one's ever gonna do anything. QuickBooks will never do anything. But if we are a squeaky wheel and 20 other small communities are squeaky wheels, QuickBooks might do something. But if we are quiet, nothing will change. Nothing will change. Don't cause a lot of trouble, but do a little squeaky.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any more questions about July?
So the next item on the list is assets over $5,000. No significant update now. Bo's still working with Debbie, going through all our stuff. I would say I think we've got an 80 to 90% solution in the capital improvement plan with the big assets, though we are refining that. We are looking at, just to give you an update, we're looking at some of the assets that have been sitting around the city, and we probably just need to, it's not, I want to call it accessing, but the proper term is surplusing. And so we are looking, we made initial contact with a company that can facilitate that process. I just need to make sure it follows the municipal process. We are working to get a cost evaluation on the old street sweeper that's been sitting at old public works for years. We had a large blue tractor that we thought was non-functional. We're looking at getting it surplus. Good news, Public Works and Debbie Mullis has found somebody that's actually got it up and running, which assuming it comes all the way through, will allow us to get mowing done on the side of the highway at a much rapid pace than trying to use those zero-turn mowers out there. So I think we'll become more efficient and continue to use an asset that had been written off years ago, as far as it's just been sitting in Public Works. Mower, we're gonna look at the dump truck, and we're looking at the bucket truck as well. Having a lot of hard time with the boom on that thing. So we'll see what it's cost us, its valuation is, what it's worth, and make sure we follow the proper surplusing process. We'll keep you updated. City Council has to approve any surplus action. We're just doing the initial staff work on it. So, however, we will keep refining that asset list. I don't have any significant updates this month. Bo, any additions to that? Okay. Any questions?
You have two numbers here in blue.
On which documents, sir?
On the infrastructure, $5,000 equipment expenditures, 5-year plan.
At some point, I changed the date. I gotta double check. I even saw that blue and was trying to remember what I had changed on that one. I know what it was. This fiscal year sidewalk maintenance initial budget was projected at 50, and the amendment I brought it down to $25,000. So that's why this one was blue. There was a change in that number. And on the sidewalk construction, I want to say it was 145 and off. I just can't remember why it came down from 145 to 135. I don't remember.
Okay,
What? Yes, sir.
We had asked you to try to work on this because it had dropped dramatically. So that sounds like two good moves to work on this so it doesn't drop so much. And it's still dropping quite dramatically. Our carry forwards, just looking at those, go from 894 down to 101 over a 5-year period.
So I will summarize on that. So, and I did send this out with an email. I think the key here is, I'll start from the top. We have done I think a much better job of identifying all our assets and how much we need to be set aside each year. So if you look at those first two groupings, the equipment and the facilities, it's kind of hard to do a totaling line in there, but for next fiscal year, that's $91,000 that we will move into a capital assets checking account. And then that'll increase each year. So over the 5-year period, that may go up to about $100,000 a year at the end of the 5-year period, going into an asset account. Now, and then you move down into, okay, here's what we're going to be doing on an annual basis. I've looked at about $15,000 of sidewalk maintenance a year. So that's grinding and replacing concrete panels that have been driven over and cracked up. Sidewalk construction, I've estimated a cost for the Nightingale project. That's at $135,000 for next year. And then I just assumed that we would set aside or look to be doing about $10,000 a year in new sidewalk construction. That's on some of these other roads that don't have any sidewalks in the city limits. Roadway resurfacing is where our biggest expense comes in. Roughly, I budgeted at $210,000 a year, and then that cost escalating it over the 5 years. That is the biggest draw on the account. I do not know how much we're going to move down to stormwater. We're going to do the 50,000 is the study this year, and then you look at 360,000. 150 of that is completing the study, and then the other 210 is the Nightingale culvert project. And then I left it kind of that salmon color. We're going to figure out with the study what type of investment we're going to need or what grant opportunities are gonna drive our work in that infrastructure line. And so right now, out of the kind of weakness in my estimating over the next few years, it's really what stormwater repairs are gonna cost. Stormwater maintenance, I did put in a $10,000 a year line item to do that. And then the other major expense, I actually probably take it back, the heaviest expense in the infrastructure account is staff, legal, and audit support. And so this is all of Public Works transportation line item. So if it's Public Works, it's paid for, it's refunded to the CR, it can be refunded to the general fund, but the vast majority of that is Public Works, and then there's time for myself, Bo, Tiffany, Wendy, a little bit of labor goes into that as well. So that's the biggest draw. Now, if you go down to the revenue side, the revenue stream that feeds it, infrastructure sales tax is going to bring in about $230,000 of that a year. So here's the big takeaway: is that we have to bring in approximately $360,000 in grants per year to make this thing work. You got it on the CIP. You've got to make sure that it doesn't overdraw its carry forward in the 5-year period. Also, before last meeting, we were talking about like 25% reserves. This document, now I understand why this document uses 7.5% as the reserve. It's really looking at trying to expand and get assets on the ground and not hold a large reserve in the infrastructure fund. And so the message I want, like I said, is about $360,000 in grants we're going to need to get the infrastructure in the ground and put money aside for capital improvement in the long term. I think that's doable, because that's a sidewalk paving project or a road paving project each year that we can offset. And I think there's a lot of different grant opportunities. But the other message is, you hear a lot of people say, and I've seen it on Facebook, the city's sitting on $1 million. That expends very fast when you actually program out what the city needs to expend on its infrastructure on an annual basis. And I think this document really shows us how that reserve draws down, and we don't have enough income coming in to do what the city really needs to do on an annual basis. That's a tough message to deliver, but I think it's important when people are seeing we're keeping a relatively low millage rate, and I'm not an advocate for changing that millage rate. I think we can operate this way. I think we can apply for grants to try and offset that, but the city's not going to be sitting on large reserves other than the minimum in the general fund in case we run into an emergency situation. So I'll stop talking.
So if we don't, and we've had challenges getting grants, of course, it hasn't been a focus, not really, but that'll become a major focus.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't get those grants, then I assume that there's certain projects that just basically don't get done.
We defer maintenance. Yes, ma'am. We would not do, we may just push until we can get that grant in. We would push a resurfacing project to the next fiscal year. Obviously, we would draw ourselves down and go into negatives. We can't. This is just looking forward and saying, here's how this 5-year would play out, but we just would delay the maintenance.
Well, I think for Dan and I, it's the first time we've actually seen this document, and it's still changing and growing and all that, and so it's a work in progress, I think, constantly. But it's incredible what you've put together. It gives us a good picture of what things might look like, and I think we just continue to build on it to refine it
Yes,
over time.
And just for the record, because I know sometimes our newspapers are listening to these and summarizing the meetings, we have $600,000-ish in grant applications for road paving projects already sitting at the state, and you'll hopefully find out over the next 3 or 4 months if we get those. And so we've already started this process of grant application to address this issue right here, because we knew it was going to be $200,000 plus a year for road resurfacing. And so there's several different state grant processes for this. We applied for Rural Infrastructure Fund. That's the granting process. We've got that 2 projects, Commercial Circle and Lakeview Roads. because they had a commercial or commercial surplus, clearly commercial value, and Lakeview to us was, we made the argument that it's about getting people down to our recreation areas, so for tourism. And so that's how we applied for those, and then we're trying to find another grant opportunity through the state that requires us to be part of a rural infrastructure or be designated as part of a rural area of opportunity. That will open up another grant opportunity for rural cities that we would put in for infrastructure grants. And then the small cities grant program, the community development block grant program that we've applied for the community center / museum, that you can use for stormwater and road work as well. And so we think we've got some very good grant opportunities that the city hasn't been going after in the recent past. After applying to all of those, I feel confident that we'll be able to get pretty close to this amount on an annual basis. So.
Questions?
No, I love what you said. I want to reinforce what you said. You know, this is a great plan to be aggressive, but if we don't get the grants, we don't do the projects.
Yeah.
We have to just push it down the road, and we can't spend into the negative. So I totally support what you said.
Well, we have to hope we get the grants.
But just keep working. You know, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I say we, our staff.
All right, so next is the CRA. Did we already look at the CRA thing? I think
We can just, since we went ahead and went through that, through the infrastructure, let's go ahead and take a look at the capital, the CRA trust fund, capital improvement plan. In the last meeting, y'all asked me to look at, can we pull, when I built this in the previous time we reviewed it, I pushed a parking project and Trailhead Phase 2 a year into the future to offset, to try to leave a couple $100,000 to try and get about a 25% reserve. Last time we talked, like, hey, let's keep a very low reserve in this account. And with that guidance, I went back in and moved those two projects closer a year. And you'll see in the carry forward line.
I thought we pushed them forward so we could do the Geneva Jungle.
It did make room for Geneva Jungle,
Yeah.
but it also, by moving them a year and not stacking it on top of Geneva Jungle, by moving it forward a year, it spread out the expenses so that the reserves didn't drop. And but I was trying to keep not an artificially high. I assumed the reserves we should keep were the same as we should keep in the general fund, which is not the case. So you'll see that the prior year carry forwards dropped down to as low as $7,000 in 28-29. Starts to come back up after that. But so I brought those reserves very, very low, but that allows us, as your guidance was, to get more infrastructure in sooner against this account. So that's what those blue line items are moving those projects forward a year. And then Geneva Jungle, yeah, then I put Geneva Jungle in there on the 26-27 plan. And then the other change that's in there, going down to infrastructure and facilities, the Museum Visitor Center, I should remember this, but I probably had all 150,000-ish in the 26-27. And I made the adjustment for this one, for assuming we get the grant that we're still in the competition for, is I expected we could actually probably execute about $30,000 of, it's not working kind, but it's effectively the working kind for the grant. To get that $600,000 grant, the city had to commit to $30,000 in the acquisition cost. And so that's in 26-27, because that process, assuming we do get that grant, will take us all the way through next fiscal year to get the acquisition process done. And then we move into 27-28, and assuming the acquisition comes in and that's all complete, that $125,000 will be available to do if we need to re-roof the facility, upgrade the HVAC, do the electrical, and then continue work with setting it up as a community center / museum. So that would be that. That's why that's spread the way it is.
27-28, we have 150K earmarked for parking. Do we have a target location for that?
It would be if we get the visitors, the former volunteer fire department, we would know in 26, 27, so the 30,000 would be design work, and then the $150,000 would be building a parking structure between the current, the old volunteer fire department and, I forget the name of that service station that's right there. There's an open grass field.
Yeah,
That's would be. Right.
Because we own that very end of the lot,
We
and
do.
then the firehouse owns the wedge, so that end of the lot's about a fourth of an acre, I believe, if I did my math right, or somewhere around there. Maybe even a little less than
So
that.
it's our existing property.
It's our existing property,
Yeah.
a slice that would come in with the firehouse, and then we would try and get.
So it'd be bigger than what it is right now.
And then we would also go after CCUA. There's where the old pump, the wellhead that they have there. Try to get that back to the city. See if we could cap that wellhead and use that additional area. Try and work it into parking.
That'd be nice, because it'd be a nice walkthrough right there.
And I don't know what the technical issues surrounding
Right.
building
Yeah,
over
that's
old
right.
wellhead, but that's my rough concept. So kind of complete that whole area.
Good.
And the beauty of that, I mean, it's so nice because right across from Public Works, which, down the road we decided we do something different with that space, but that pole barn is there.
Right.
They could be craft fair, it could be, whatever, event type things. It's a nice pole barn, just sitting there doing nothing. So,
And-
and additional parking if we needed in that space.
We had thought, the mayor found an announcement that the state's grant, we didn't get the grant. And I realized that granting opportunity to the small cities, there's an 8,000 set aside, or 8 million set aside that's nothing but the panhandle. And then there's still 20, if I remember correctly, 20 or 21 million available for the rest of the state.
Okay. 'cause
And
that's
so
what it
when
is.
Ms. Fox responded that there were still funds out there,
Okay,
looking, trying to remember back 3 months, there is still a chunk of funds that the state has not announced.
oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, because the way he, announced it, and it was him announcing it, that 8.8 million was awarded to the Northwest Florida.
Well, it's funny, Wendy's the one that picked it up.
Strictly,
Yeah.
strictly infrastructure and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Do what now?
Wendy's the one that noticed it. She goes, they're all in the panhandle. And as soon as she said that, I'm like, I know why they're all in the panhandle.
Yeah.
Because it was a set aside for panhandle counties.
Yeah, because I originally thought, but maybe it is 20 million total. So hopefully, fingers crossed,
Sounds like we should go
I know I wrote a
soon.
letter and, have plenty of support there, so, anyway, let's hope we get lucky. Alrighty, you good then?
And so just to highlight,
Yeah.
this takes care of in September, assuming the city council wants to approve this. This knocks out 2 of our strategic plan
Excellent.
objectives. Once this is approved, we've got that longer term plan in for our infrastructure work. So.
Okay,
Speaking of the strategic plan,
yes, sir.
I think after the election in November, we should look at redoing our strategic plan.
It is, it's set to expire in 27,
Yeah.
so I feel like we got to do another workshop, and we need to just go back and refine and change and think and.
We got that mind meld going on. here.
Absolutely, I am already considering it, I've already done all the math, I've already been freaking out about it.
I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
so, yeah, absolutely, and we have an excellent strategic plan, which I think it'll be really easy to do this time as a team, so. Alrighty, next is, so through the assets, next is your audit status, which you say is complete.
So the audit was complete. Just a reminder, we had a clean audit plus all the audit findings from previous audits were all corrected. So the only update I have at this point is that, amongst other things that have been delayed over the last year, we've still got to do some final tweaks to the request for proposal for the new audit and get it advertised in the paper. I've been hung up for probably a month and a half waiting for an answer from the state of Florida if we could get into and advertise in their My Florida Marketplace under the vendor information portal. And the answer that came back was no. They unfortunately, in the same time frame, they've decided to completely digitally overhaul that system, and they've locked new entries into the system for another year. If I remember, it was next spring was the earliest that our application to use that system will be unlocked and we'll be able to use that. I got that answer a couple weeks ago, and so now it just comes down to, we will do the clean up the RFP, request for proposal, put the advertisement out locally in the paper, and then I'm gonna also look at other, auditing kind of areas where we can broaden the knowledge that we're seeking a new auditor, just to try and meet the intent of the audit review committee's guidance, which was to broaden the scope of how many people could see that we were advertising the request for proposal. So, on me, delayed on me, other than the attempt to try and get into the state system took a lot longer than I had anticipated.
All right. Okay, next is our long-term discussions without the property tax. I didn't see any attachments.
That's really this stuff here.
So we really did, we kind of did the CI, the capital improvement plans, so those are done. I've got no major updates for the long-term tax implications. I think at this point, it's just a waiting game until November to see what the citizens vote. We have, I spoke in front of Rotary, that got picked up in the paper, we put it out on Facebook and just tried to put the facts out about.
You did a great job.
What we expect we'll have to do with our budgeting, if Amendment 3 passes.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I think we let it ride and let the voters decide, and then, we shift focus into the following fiscal year.
Yeah. I think we have the right attitude about it. It's just planning ahead, just thinking a little bit proactively. We're doing the right things right now. All the noise down in Florida League of Cities meeting, which we missed you. You could have had my hotel room. I'd stayed on it for 2 days and then I came back. Dang it. We'll have to plan better next time. But, the noise down there or comments from the mayors, they're very worried. All of them are very worried. All of them have very unique things they're going to be doing. Just yesterday, I saw with Palm Beach, one of the Palm Beach mayors stated that more than at least 13 municipalities are probably going to be completely diminished or taken down, like quit, because they're not going to be able to manage it. They don't have the money to exist. He's very strong about that. And he said includes some down there. I'm like, wow, pretty strong. But, I'm seeing things like parks being shut down to staffing reduced, a number of things, which is really sad, I think. My goal is to, while we can't be as robust as we want to be, to do the best that we know how to do. And for us, of course, it's just events and trying to, we don't have a lot of these big things happening in our city like a lot of towns do. So I think we just have to go with what we have and what we know we can do. I did relook at the millage rate, current versus 3.7902, which would be the max rate that you gave us at the last meeting. The original max rate we had from June was off, or whatever. You gave us a new rate,
Yes.
3.7902.
That's the maximum. That'll show up in the trim notices.
Right.
The term that'll be used in our trim notices out to the public will be proposed rate, but that effectively means that's the highest the city can go via the trim process.
That was the 10%.
It was. Well, it's what I had calculated based on previous property tax values, which had changed, but yes, but we selected it as what we thought would be 10%, it actually came in to be 7.8%.
Yeah, 7%. Yeah, 7 point whatever. So I reformulated my spreadsheet just for reference for you all to have, and I'll email it to you, Jenny.
Yes, ma'am.
Essentially, it brings it down a little bit. I mean, we're still gonna lose a chunk of money, 80-something thousand the first year and another, 30, whatever, the second. But we would at least, if we made it max rate, and if we did that right, I mean, I know it's not gonna affect, well, it would affect like next year, but it's just a snapshot of what it would look like. And I sit there and I look at it like, okay, well, it's not that much money, really. And of course, is the bang worth the buck at this point? I tend to feel, like you do, Jamie, hold off until we have the vote. And then next year's millage rate will be a whole nother discussion. I think our voters have been very lucky to have our mill rate retain and continue the way it has been for a number of years. We're still, even our highest mark was still lower than just about anybody in the county, including Bradford or Stark. So I feel like we've done a really good job over the years managing that and trying to think about citizens and be considerate. But I think we've got things now out of our control And we're being treated just like anybody else in the state of Florida, which is really unfortunate with this situation. And so, I just kind of feel like we'll just kind of hang tight and see how it goes.
And just to summarize, Councilman, I did have a discussion with the mayor, just about, selecting a 7% increase versus selecting just keeping it at the current rate. My recommendation at this point is just to keep current rate and just let us, as the mayor summarized, let's see what the voters say in November and make decisions on the impacts of whichever decision they make. We can account for it in the next fiscal year. I don't necessarily know if the timing is right to raise back up right now. I think there's a good argument to do it for sure, which goes back to when we have more infrastructure costs and we have revenues coming in. But I don't necessarily know if now is necessarily the right time to make that call. I think there's a lot of friction in the air across the board, and I don't think anybody's wrong in their
Probably 80% is misinformation, unfortunately. It doesn't matter, you can try to give the correct information, but everybody, they don't trust us, is an unfortunate thing. So I know you supported me on the max rate. How do you feel about that thought?
So, I am not a politician who goes by the ebb and flow of public opinion. The public doesn't know all the details. And so I try to make decisions in this leadership role based upon what I think is truly best for the community. And that is why the last 2 years I have pushed for the rollback rate. And that is why this year I am not going to do that again. I'm going to again, and I don't care what the public thinks about it because they're not educated about what's going on. They don't look at the numbers. They don't see what's happening to our budget. And so I'm going to push for our 7% increase.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to do the right thing every time.
Right. And so when I look at that number, I see it as, okay, it may seem small, but it may pay for outside police support for us to have, for the parade, for Boo on the Boulevard. We shut down the road. Well, if we can't shut that down, it's not the same experience. And for us in our community, that event is a big deal. It may not be a big deal to Jacksonville or to even Greenfield, but it's a big deal for us. And if we have to remove that event because we can't shut the road down, that's just a huge hit, in my opinion, And just like Dan said, I think not only do they not see the numbers, they don't care to hear about the details. They just say, this costs us too much money.
Well, and let's talk about the details too. One thing I asked for was how many dollars per household this would cost. Were you able to get that data for me?
I did run it. I'm just gonna double check that.
I remember last year.
Which rate are you referring to? And I'll just run that
The current
calculation.
rate?
At the current rate, current 3.6. Mayor, before I forget, just in case I may have verbally misstated it, I did notice on your document the math, the current millage rate.
Yep.
You have written down 3.6703.
That was the current.
Yeah, it's actually 3.6073.
3.6073?
Yeah, 3.6. You got the numbers right, just one of them out of order.
That's correct.
That's correct.
This is correct. The one I got is correct.
What, so is it in what I ran the math?
It's on the map, yeah.
3.6073.
Yeah, I'm looking at
3.6.
in red.
Oh, there it is wrong.
Oh,
I just don't know if it.
that's a typo.
Okay, as long as I just making sure in your
It's
calculation.
correct in many other places, but
Okay.
in that one area, they're right.
3.6.
Okay.
7. It should be
Yeah,
07.
That's a typo. I'll check it. I'll
Yeah,
check
there
the
is
math again.
one incorrect place.
Got it. I just worked on this yesterday. So it's 3.6703?
No.
3.6073.
073. Got it. Follow up. Okay,
You got
and I'll
that correct
send it
here
out.
and here.
Yeah,
It's-
my
it's-
math adds up, but I'll check it. to be
Here,
sure.
it's correct in
I
4
bet it's a
places.
typo.
It's just one place.
I'll
where it's
run the
not.
math to be sure.
All right, and then, so Councilman, we're talking about the impact, so at the current rate, and do you want me to run it current rate and 95% revenue coming in for the current rate, or do you want full current rate?
And it was so simple before. How did we do this? We said, what was the total increase in dollars simply divided by the number of parcels?
And there's 811 parcels?
Oh, you're looking at the impact, not the total, so.
No, I'm talking about how much of an increase will people have to pay
Per year.
per year in property
It
taxes?
was less than $100 last year.
Oh, it was like 36 bucks,
Oh,
or
yeah, it
40
was
bucks.
pretty low.
$50.
I haven't done
Well, I know
that.
Math did that,
Yeah.
Brian,
You know.
Bo did that for us.
$3 a month, $4 a month. You know, this is what they're griping
So
over.
it's the 411,000 divided
Really?
by the 800.
You're griping about $3 a month.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, the reason I asked clarification on it, because when you run it at the current rate, you're gonna get a number, and then for budgeting purposes, we multiply that by 0.95 and budget to 95% of that.
Make it worst case scenario.
Okay.
So the full
That's what I
income,
said.
I'll run it, I don't like doing math problems, and that's got a couple extra variables in it, I can get it and email it out to you.
Make it simple, just make it simple, but I wanna be able to say, no, this is, and really, what a normal, city will do is they'll just keep the same millage rate. That's what they'll do, because that means that we're going up with the cost of living. That's all it means. That's what it is. So what we're really talking about is if we go to the max millage rate that we established, 3.7902. So what's the difference in our income between those two? And I'm not talking about the total amount, I'm talking about the difference between those two. Divided by
It's 800.
810 parcels.
810 parcels.
Now, it's not actually gonna be evenly divided amongst 810 parcels,
Right,
but just make it simple, you know, let's just do it that way.
just the average.
Right. And then the second thing that people completely ignore is that if your property, which is homesteaded, is worth $250,000 or less, it doesn't matter what millage rate we have. If this thing passes in November, you're gonna pay 0 property taxes. So it doesn't matter to you what millage rate we have. Only the rich pieces of property are gonna pay the higher millage rate.
Well, it'll be the non-homesteaded properties and the business owners.
Yes.
That will pay that
Right.
additional cost.
I can give you roughly, and I'll double check it, but if you look at the rolled back rate, so effectively no new tax.
I don't wanna look at the rollback, no.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're looking at the difference between,
I don't wanna look at the rollback, no,
okay?
because a normal city will have the 3.6073 rate. They will maintain the same rate, cause that will be
Okay.
consumer price index increased.
Okay.
We wanna give our people pay raises, gas is gonna cost more, electricity is gonna cost more, we have to have a little bit of an increase to pay for that.
Well, and also, I think rollback is not an option.
Well, we've done that for 2 years because we had such a nice surplus. We didn't need all that surplus. That is no longer the case. So rollback, in my mind, is not an option. That is not something we're gonna consider. So we keep the same as we had before, the same millage rate, or we increase it. Okay, and that's what I want the difference
I got
to
you.
be.
So the rough difference in revenue between holding the current rate and going to a max millage rate is $20,000 more in revenue. So that calculation is just 20,000, and I'll do it here real quick.
20,000 divided by 810.
So 20 per parcel is rounded up $25 a parcel.
$25, so we're talking about $2 a month.
Yeah.
That's how much our people would pay more
Right.
by going to the max millage rate of 3.7902. $2 a month,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, and I mean, and for us, it may sound to most people like not that big a deal, but for us, this impacts things that we are able to do in our community. You know, it causes us to have a little bit of help, even though we're still gonna have a big hit. at least kind of pads it a little bit, brings back. I mean, at one point, Jamie, after the vote goes through, I wanna look at the bucket, and I've seen it published, I'm gonna look further into it. Because of the property taxes coming in, not only are we gonna get less money, but now it's infrastructure, core services, infrastructure categories only. So I know we've done all this work to put our stuff in categories, but I think we're gonna have to have another sheet that says property tax. And this is the line items that can only, those dollars can be spent on, just so we have a good idea of what that looks like. Because I know for a fact, we're gonna have to take money from the general fund or other areas to pad that, because property tax will not cover all of that, all those line items. If I saw the list of what they are, right?
Oh, certainly.
Certainly,
Well,
right.
you're talking about what's now been, under Amendment 3, what's defined as core services,
Correct.
or core functions or
service-
services, I forget the word they
Core
use.
services, and I think it's in infrastructure.
But you're saying after November you'll want
Yeah,
a breakdown of that?
as we look into next year, cause I'm gonna want in my mind see like what those items are, especially as we're looking and deciding, down, next year, what can we do and what we can't do, you know what I mean? So, I mean, just example, we go and, decide to buy this, corner here to do a pocket park, for example.
Mhm.
That money cannot come from property taxes like it could now. So, you know what I mean? I just kinda want to see specifically, and then the hole that it leaves in the general fund, where we had to take those dollars and put it into that bucket now.
Yes, ma'am.
What are we allowed to do beyond in that bucket? Does that make sense? Trying to figure out, because it is a new way of what we're gonna be
Yes,
doing,
ma'am.
right? So, it's confusing enough, because I know sometimes you pull from this fund to go to here to go. So I think, once that is identified, it just helps it easier to think about
And
outside the
I'll
box.
just broadly answer, cemetery fund, not impacted. Community redevelopment area fund, not impacted. Infrastructure fund, actually technically would receive,
Thank you.
infrastructure fund would receive a little more funds because of funds coming from, that are restricted because of core services. Core service, infrastructure is the one main thing that's easy to identify. Core services will push funds into our infrastructure fund. Now, the impact of the general fund would be, the core service functions that are in the general fund that would be allowed in, if Amendment 3 passed, would be, the retirement funding. So our FRS accounting line would still be able to be paid in the general fund. And then anything that's defined, well, public safety is the term that's used in the language of the amendment. That's a very small budget line for us. That's the stuff we use for code enforcement labor and like cutting down oak trees that are hanging out over our rights of way. We don't have a whole lot in that one, but those two kind of areas are all that would remain in the general fund that would be designated by the current language of core services. And then infrastructure and environmental, that all would fall underneath where we typically put money into the infrastructure.
So I thought the CRA fund though received some money from property taxes.
It does, but there was only a couple of parcels in the CRA that are homesteaded. And so for me, it may be a little bit of revenue that comes in from it, but it's so minute that it won't significantly change.
Oh, but I mean, I'm just thinking, when the money comes from property taxes, I thought it went into the CRA fund.
But it comes
for-
directly from the CRE area.
From this area, okay.
That's it.
Now, I guess if your question is, does Amendment 3 change the way that, does Amendment 3 change the definition for all CRA, community redevelopment areas in the state? I haven't heard anybody mention that.
Well,
And most of what we do is infrastructure anyway in the CRA.
Well, when I think about our projects, right, so we're waiting for FDOT to get done, but then we wanna go ahead and finish up stuff in the downtown area.
Mhm.
Talk about facade improvements, potential parking, all those things. So you're saying the property tax, the changes will not affect those funds?
As far as my understanding,
Just a spending tax.
Just a little bit, okay.
yeah, the property tax revenue would only be minorly impacted, and to my
Okay.
understanding, the definition of what we're spending money in the CRA for still would still
Okay.
predominantly
Okay.
fit.
This is complex.
Yeah.
It really
They always make
is.
it that way.
Oh, yeah.
So the average person can't figure it out.
That's for sure. Yeah, the average taxpayer just
Oh, my
is lost,
Lord.
and I understand why.
Well, yeah,
I
I mean,
understand why. I mean, even the judge postponed Amendment 3 because the judge said it was too vague or something like
Right,
that.
The language in
Had to change it.
the ballot language, he required the state to change it to make it, just facts.
Yeah.
He perceived it as a partisan statement to say, they're like, save you from higher taxes, and the word saving was considered, you know.
it kind of, I mean, it said that it doesn't mean you're not gonna have taxes, because this is only a very small piece of a tax bill,
Right.
which is not what the original communication was.
Right.
I mean, I look at it and it's like, I know I paid Keystone $500 out of my total tax bill, which is right at 3,000, and my house is assessed only at 192. So,
Taxable value. Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
And so the whole thing is, my point is, the way I look at it, I personally, for what I get to live here, I'm okay with paying the $500, you know? It's just, I mean, I know a lot of people have much harder times, and I get it. There's all these homes down in South Florida, they've owned them for years, paid them all for years, and they're assessed over $1 million and have all this huge tax bill. I get that. But, what I hate is every community was treated as the same, and they should have done their due diligence with a study to look at everyone under the microscope and figure out, okay, what is the best solution, and maybe we do it as a tiered thing or something to accomplish the same result, but that was not even considered. So I really feel like the whole thing is short-sighted.
I just ran the number of the current rate, keeping the current rate at revenue would be about 400,000.
Right.
The average, if you just divide it by the 810 parcels, the average would be $894 would be the average property tax
Total cost,
total.
not the increase.
Not the increase, correct. The average that citizens would typically pay across the parcels, not an increase, but the average
I
would be
think
about
it's important
what you
to
said,
say-
$500 bill per property tax.
It's really, I mean, it's barely a third, so what is it? Not even a third, no, it's
Right.
less than that, it's a small.
Increasing to the max
My school
millage would
taxes
be.
are way more than that, you know,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
But, well, we'll cross that bridge, but yeah, I understand too where you're coming from, Dan.
Well, and we'll see what the will of the council is here pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah.
And just as a reminder, with the new legislation that passed, anything at a 10% increase or up to 10% is going to be it's going to take it's going to take 4 out of 5 in support to pass anything over the current rate. So up to 10% increase.
And what we're looking at, so what, 7.5% is what you said?
Correct. It's going to take 4 out of 5.
It'll take 4 weeks.
So it'll take 4 out of 5 under the current max millage requirements by the state. That's the vote requirement.
Well, I'll redo this math with the correct math or typo that I may send you out the spreadsheet. But I think that looking at it like that, it helps us to understand that dollar amount. And you know, I mean, I know perception's important and all that, but when folks do not want to be educated on the facts of the reality of what we sit here and talk about and try to do, I mean, we're very honest people. We don't, you know, it affects us too. It's not just, you know, everybody out there. We're just trying to do the things for the community that are going to have, you know, help us to continue to maintain what we have moving forward.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that throw their 2 cents in, and they aren't even citizens of this community. They don't live
They don't
in the
live here.
city limits,
Right.
and yet they want to tell us what to do.
Yeah,
That just irritates me.
yeah. And
They're
that's
not
mostly
even
what it is.
citizens. Oh my goodness.
That is mostly what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So we looked at the draft budget, correct? Pretty much?
So I tell you what, Mayor, why don't we go through, I'll go through the org chart, salary schedule.
Yes, you have that.
And then we can go hit the draft, the amended fiscal year, and then the proposed for next year.
Okay.
And so I'll just hit this org chart, and we didn't do this last year. I think we need to be doing this as part of every budget package. So the org chart is included in here. That's a total of 16 staff positions. 10 of those are full-time, 6 are part-time, and there's 2 contractors for planning and zoning and public information officer. And so that is our current staff.
Thank you for doing that.
Boss, you got any questions on this? What's that? And then the salary schedule.
And by the way, on the HR thing,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I told you, I talked with, and just so you know, Dan, I talked to Mayor Brown from Weston, and I followed up and sent her an email requesting who her HR consultant is. So they work with consultants only in their community.
Perfect.
She has no staff.
We really need that.
Well, she has no staff. They have a consultant for everything that they do.
Okay.
So HR is one of them, and so she told me she would send me that contact. If I don't hear back from her, say by the end of this week, I will call their office and talk to her, whoever's assisting her, to get that to me, so I can get it to you.
And on our side of staff side, Tiffany and I have been talking with, our payroll is done through a company called Paychecks. And they also offer HR services. And if we were to take them up on it, it would be, they have the package where you get a dedicated person that is always servicing you.
Cadillac service.
Right, and then there's a package where you get somebody from a pool of 10 or 12 people. Like, I'm okay with the pool. It was like $200 to $300 for just the baseline service, and $700 a month for the ideal one. Like, we can do with that, but yeah, we don't need robust. We just need HR.
Yeah.
What comes with that, just the kickoff of it, is they'll redo your personnel policy. They have a different term for it. We call it personnel policy. So they call it a staff handbook or something like that, personnel handbook. So they'll go through and help you redo your safety policy. They'll go through all of your position descriptions, and they'll help you establish the process for onboarding and document, so cleaning all that up. And that's all part of doing it. And then if you stay with them, then you can call them anytime to get any of your HR questions
And
answered.
we already work with them, right? You said you use.
We're already using them for our payroll.
And it might be the,
calculations.
I have no idea what that would cost, what she does, but I'm sure they have different levels. But I'll keep chasing that,
Yeah.
and if she doesn't get back to me, then we'll just have to do what we gotta do. But we need to do something.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's not on contract, it's monthly.
It's just a monthly service fee.
Oh, that's great, okay.
Okay, then I'll move on to the employee salary schedule. What I will say on this one, no significant change in the basic data. I started to, late one afternoon, try to do an analysis of what comparable small cities would be. And I got hard, so I had Copilot just run the numbers. That's what these are. I didn't have time to back check these numbers. What I should have done before I sent this out was delete this, because it's an AI generated estimate that I'm just gonna tell you, I did not have time to back check. So there's some of these in here that I don't necessarily agree with. Some of them look about right. But I'll drop this off until I can actually do an analysis that I can back check. I just wanted to be clear right up front. But this is the salary table, and no significant changes. Right now, I didn't see anything that was out of whack that would need a recalculation of the salary table for this year.
And I can send you back in 24, 25, yeah, 25, is that right? No, 24. When Charlie and I sat down and looked at all of that and identified the positions, the salaries and all that, and I even threw in the math to do the benefits, the health benefits, the retirement benefits. So I can send you that, how those numbers were.
If
for
you
them.
would.
And that, I think that was the salary that he was pushing forward at that time.
And that's likely
Which is-
reflected in this table.
It's probably, yeah.
That's where this
so-
table came from.
Okay.
But if you do want to, you may have
But I-
already sent that to me,
Maybe,
Mayor,
yeah,
but
I
if-
probably did, yeah.
I don't remember
It's
that
a-
specific calculations.
Yeah, it's got the specific dollars in it, where I ran the math on it.
I would say the one thing that doesn't show on this is probably 2 years of
Oh, increase in
inflation.
Inflation, sorry.
Right, that's the only thing
Yeah,
that I
and
didn't
that's how
try
mine was
to
too.
calculate in.
Yeah, okay.
Unless y'all have any concerns with that, I'll clean this one up.
So just to clarify, the far right column, small city average is gonna disappear.
Yes, sir.
And then I'd like to add note 3, if my information is correct, in September, the state minimum wage becomes $15 an hour.
I meant to double check that. But of course, we're already there, but we,
Right, but I think it's an
Yeah.
important note to put down there. You know, that the state minimum wage in September goes to $15 an hour, so anybody who might say, we're paying too much at $15 an hour, sorry, that's the minimum.
There's some places a lot less than that.
Hey, when I started working, I worked for $2.15 an hour.
My first job was $1.60.
There you go, okay.
As a tech in the lab, believe it or not, yeah.
I was a stable hand. I worked shovel manure,
Oh, yeah,
so,
besides babysitting, but,
oh yeah, well, that was different.
yeah.
Let me just take a quick note.
But you know, this is, I've never seen this before, like, you know what I mean, this information.
Oh, really?
No, I mean, I didn't have access to it, I certainly didn't share it. So, I mean, we've come a long way. Gotta believe it.
One additional note, the legislation that passed that's gonna require next year for us to hold a 10% budget drill reduction. Also in that language, starting in January, something along the lines of this, maybe even more specific, is gonna have to be posted on the city website. Quarterly salary or pay schedule tables have to be
Really?
posted on all city websites as well, so.
Well, it's because cities are paying off people for political reasons.
Yeah.
That's the big cities with big budgets, and they just pay off their
I mean, not
budgets.
that we are anything to hide, it's just, I always feel like personal, salaries are personal, you know, and you try to respect it as much as you can.
Although in the federal government, they do it all the time. I mean, my military pay was always public information. Anybody in the world, the Russians knew how much I made. You know, so.
They just need to know how many years of service you have, they can run the table.
Yeah, exactly. It was so easy. So I don't have any problems with that. I've lived my whole life that way. Everybody knows how much I
It is talking about your salary publicly.
Yeah,
Especially if you're making a lot of money, because people are like, I don't want people to know that.
right. You know, everybody's, it's a land of opportunity, so anybody can do, as long as they wanna do it, you know? All right, so, where are we, what's next?
So just, I think the last item though, we've kind of jumped around to,
Yep.
is the fiscal year, so the 25-26 budget amendment to close out the fiscal year, and then the fiscal year 26-27 draft budget. And I'll just start off with I'll talk broadly and we can actually jump into the spreadsheet. Fiscal year 25-26 budget amendment adjusted the income and expenses to more accurately reflect the fiscal year. It ends up having the exact same draw on our reserves as the amendment we did in June. So we'll draw on the reserves at approximately $64,000. So that the bottom line of the budget didn't change. It's just all the different budget line items throughout, either income or expenses, have been shifted around to get as accurate as possible. And that's broad. We'll go into that in more detail. And then for the 26-27 draft budget, it is balanced. Actually, it has about, I think right now as it sits, about $1,000 adding to the reserves at the end of the year if it plays out. It assumes the current rate of 3.6073. It does not assume the max millage rate. This is built off of 3.6073, the current rate. Okay. So, starting off, you can see that with assuming the current rate and then calculating the 95% of the revenue expected from the current rate, that budget line item it doesn't change for the September amended budget, and in the 26-27 budget, it goes to $381,000 and some change. No changes. I didn't see any changes in first local option fuel tax and second local option fuel tax of significance. How they're performing now is how I budgeted them into the next fiscal year. Then moving down to the Clay County utility tax. So for CCUA, for water sewer, I projected based on the latter end of the year that it's performing about $37,000 a month. So September amended budget stays the same at 41.5, but I'm expecting in the next fiscal year, 26-27, that revenue will increase to $41,000, so a few $1,000 increase. The electric utility tax for electric, so for folks that are using Clay Electric, We found out about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Clay County, or excuse me, the Clay Electric did a 3-year audit of all of their payments. They did a 3-year audit. That audit determined that they owed the city an additional, well, it was $31,000 for the August payment, but it was actually $20,000 from that audit from the previous 3 years they owed. So we got a roughly $10,000 monthly payment, and then an additional $20,000 for them looking back over 3 years. So we contacted them and said, okay, how does that impact next year? And they said we should calculate about a third of that additional revenue should carry forward in your calculations for next year. So the amended, so we went from 135 in the previous budget, we amended up to $150,000 in receipts in September, or for the current fiscal year budget. That's an amendment up, and then factoring in over the next year a total of $144,000 coming in next fiscal year. So it bumps up a little because of that 3-year payment or back payment that came in, and then drops back down, but it's still higher next year than what we were expecting before their audit. So that lands at $144,000 in revenue 26-27. Local communication service tax, based on the revenues coming in, it looks like it'll end this fiscal year at $140,000. So I amended up $5,000 and drafted the next fiscal year budget at $150,000. And then the administrative fee waste stays about the same. That's business solid waste pickup stays about the same. Permits, let's see, business tax receipts, I expect, based on Wendy doing amazing work. We're picking up, we added some numbers to the rolls, so I think that'll probably come in around $6,000 total this year and next. So it's just a moderate $500 increase. The next change, okay. Here's one of those grants we talked about. So you'll see there's some colored line items that are adding. So that's 334500 state grant economic environment. We brought in an actual $60,000 for grant reimbursements, and so that budget line changed. Or that's a new budget line in the amended budget at $60,000. And then I've kept it in there for next fiscal year in case we do get the grant we've applied for $40,000 to do the land development regulation update. But I budgeted $0 until we actually know if we receive it or not. Moving down to the next one is municipal revenue sharing program. This one is a little bit of a risk. I will say we received an email from the state a couple of weeks ago that said that you should, they think that they're going to pay us, I want to say it was $62,000 or $63,000 over the year. I had a similar note last year, and we're going to land this year at about $85,000. And so just using that calculation of what the actual payments have come in, I built it a slight increase at $90,000. There is some risk there, but it's kind of a history that I've been watching, and we can, if it changes, we can adjust in the mid-year. But it's not like I wouldn't call it a gamble. It's just I've watched how it's performing, and I've seen it last year projected way lower than it actually came in. But I did want to identify that. No other changes until we go down to FDOT highway maintenance. We've already passed this through y'all. The next year's highway maintenance fund is going to come in at $65,000, or actually $66,000, based on the cost escalation that hasn't been applied in many years. So that's additional revenue. The FDOT traffic light maintenance is okay. This fiscal year I increased it. It was around $14,859. We are going to have to pay $5,000 to repair the traffic, the crosswalks out here. And the clause in our agreement with FDOT says that they will reimburse us for the repair expenses. And so I budgeted in an extra $5,000 in repair. So there's a $5,000 expense further down in the budget this year, and then this is basically the repayment budgeted in for $5,000. And then next fiscal year, is, the fiscal year is 15,297. That's just the agreement that we've entered into as well. And then finally, the street lights, FDOT street lights reimbursement is a little bit, actually, I don't know why it's colored red, it should have been colored green. It is a little bit higher next year at 22,216. Oh, I'm sorry, it's lower. I gotta look back. Last year, this current fiscal year, we received two payments, previous fiscal year and this fiscal year. So we received $42,000 in that account this year. Next year, we're only gonna have one payment. That's why it's showing as a reduction at 22,000. I apologize. Facility rentals, after watching facility rentals over the last few months, I had thought we were performing about 2,000 a month. It's actually coming in at about 1,650. So I budgeted down to reduced from 24,000 down to $20,000 and carried that forward into next fiscal year. Bank account interest income, because we are switching from we're turning off CDs and just holding a balance in the banking checking accounts, and the bank is going to give us 3% on that. The bank account interest income is going to go up, and we're going to see a reduction in the amount we're going to get in CD interest income, which is the next budget line down. So you see them kind of going up and dropping at the same time. Those changes are reflecting that difference in how we're banking with our funds. And then the most miscellaneous income other. This is that change that we talked about earlier. At the end of September, I'm projecting we'll have a total of 36,000 in that account or income line. And next year, the only thing I'm expecting in miscellaneous will be, what do we put in there? When we notarize out here. So that's why that's the account we use for notarization. That's where the $500 come from. And then festivals and events is budgeted to what we've actually received in this fiscal year. So we've actually received $13,000, $13,500. I think that's where we'll land. And then next year, reduce the income because we've got less events, so we'll have less revenue coming in from food trucks, etc. So that's gonna be 12,000. Moving on to that next page, cemetery. We are right now budgeted at 52,000. That's why I increased that at what we've actually received for the cemetery. And then 67,000 for next year, and that is an increase based on fully funding the cemetery's labor versus at one point we were doing 80% of the cemetery manager, and then a potential. I'm sorry, these are the reimbursement numbers. That makes sense. So that's mainly that increase to 67,000. The CRA reimbursement to the general fund, we added in the grant manager's time, so that takes it from $25,000 up to $33,000 next fiscal year. And then the capital improvement reimbursement, this is adjusted or amended to capture the entire public works cost and then some cost for the grant manager as well. So that goes, we correct this fiscal year to $311,500, and next fiscal year that goes up to $376,500. That's all the changes in revenue. Let me pause and take a sip of coffee. You have any questions on any of those?
I appreciate going through everything, and this is the probably the appropriate function to do that. In general, though, if you're planning to do this at a city council meeting, I would not.
No, sir, I do not.
But what I would ask is that for significant items, major changes, that those are worth presenting. And it might only be one or two or three of them, but that's what I would ask. I think our colleagues on the dais up here would appreciate discussion of major items.
And if you want to go by particular items, if you want to keep going on the expenses, I'm happy to keep going the way I did it. there's a few more
Well,
pages of them.
I think it's worth us, like, there's a few pages here, maybe like for the next one, that you have a question here on, festivals and events, Northeast Florida League dinner, and you have the question, will we host this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the expectation at the Northeast Florida League of Cities is, yes, we are hosting.
It's our turn.
Yeah, it's our turn.
Yeah.
Bernardino Beach did it
They did
last
last year.
April, and so this April it's our turn. And so my answer is, oh, absolutely.
Sure.
And so what I would think is, what I would suggest, Madam Mayor, is maybe you and I, in our heads, go through each one of these items, and if we have a question, if he has a question for us,
And while y'all are doing that, I'll go through and see if there's any big changes that I wanna highlight for you.
that sounds good.
Okay, I'll catch this first one, equipment maintenance. You're gonna see it go down, budget this fiscal year, so, 572,400. We budgeted $35,000 this year for, this is in Parks and Recreation. Well, a lot of that, we did a lot of work down there with septic to sewer conversion, other things like that. This goes down to $10,000. This is really just dropping it down for kind of more the day-to-day expenses that we would expect throughout a year. Repairs to Geneva Jungle, tree work, etc. So that's a fairly significant drop. That the reason it was artificially higher this year was doing some repair work that had been, or big projects that were delayed. And then the next one down, Parks and Rec. You all have been used to us showing some payroll in Parks and Rec. Kind of like we did with the electric bill and the water bill. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to administratively try and track those hours. So in the future budget, the rest of this year's budget and future budget, we're just going to put all the labor effort of Public Works in the Public Works section. In the Lakes account, we're trying to figure out how we properly show the $41,000 that we contributed to Clay County for the Lake Geneva restoration. So it shows as a total expense of $51,000. So that's this fiscal year's contribution into the Lakes checking account and an expense out of the Lakes checking account of $41,000 that's paying the invoice to Clay County. A little bit weird because of our fiscal budgeting, our municipal budgeting, but that's what that expense is. Next year, I just have the standard $10,000 going back into that account, so that it goes back to what is relatively normal.
Okay. Are you done with page 29?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm moving on to page 30.
Okay.
For my education, I manage my credit cards and I don't have any fees. Why do we have $5,000?
When we use Clover, that's our credit card terminal in here, there's a fee. Now we assess when we, in the charge, so let's say, then we get a lot of them for a a lot of credit card charges for fireworks armbands. And so if you wanna come buy 10 bands, everyone gets that fee.
Okay, so I used to own my own business and I understand those kinds of.
Yes, sir, that's the fee.
That's the fee, okay.
Mhm. But it has to show as an expense. We're making it up in the revenue.
Got it. It's not because we're using a credit card, it's because people are
We
coming
pay
and
no
paying
fees.
for credit cards.
So, looking at the line item, the 513125, the contingency for mayor and council, and I see the notes, reduced due to low attendance from the quarterly conference. So this is for attending the annual conference primarily? Or for attending
That's the main,
meetings?
yes, ma'am,
Yeah,
that's the main
expenses.
expense. And then, so like coins would go against this, we charge the city t-shirts or polo shirts against this one, but the main
Oh.
expense is usually the Florida League of Cities, conference, annual
Okay.
conference. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and looking at, and just moving forward, because, we'll probably have to even cut that further down the road, but, and I explained this to you this week. When I, joined that, of course, I'm joined as part of the Florida League of Cities, I can try to go to the regional things when I can. And then also the conference I attend, but I attend the mayor's portion of the conference. I have a separate membership that I pay out of my own pocket to be a member of that organization. It's $350 a year. And then they provide me and our group regional events to travel to that don't cost. I mean, it might be travel expense to go to our hotel, but for the actual registration, all there's no charge. Educational events is what they host about 4 or 5 times a year. But then we have about a 2-day meeting before the actual real conference starts, the symposium. So the attendance to the symposium is a whole nother $650 to attend that symposium, plus your hotel and food. So I have chosen not to do that because before we had other members that attended that portion from council, and either 1 or 2 people would go. And I'm just thinking that as long as someone else is gonna go to that portion, because I want you all to go to that. I feel like we ought to share in the knowledge, bringing back stuff, information, and I know that you would typically go. But I think we just have to figure out from a budget perspective what makes sense. And if you want me to go to the whole thing, I can do that.
Mhm.
But I really want the other council members, and I know you're a region on the board, so you should certainly try to be there if you can. But then if Dan can't be there, identify one of the other members who can be there in our representation. Because it's not just about us showing up to attend, it's our presence and all the interaction and the knowledge that we gain from all over the state, because they share very similar things that we talk about, and we grow. It's our opportunity to become educated, to do better, and it's just something I feel very important for us to be part of. But I know it was just you and I that went to this last meeting. So hopefully in the next, I'm sorry you didn't get a room, that's what, I understand you couldn't get in that hotel, right? The place that had a snake.
Yeah, it was, we can talk about it another time.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I just wanna make sure you knew kind of what I do, is I just go for those 2 days, but I'm open to go to the rest if that's something that the other folks cannot be there for. So, I just feel like the same.
No, I agree, it's very important to go. Did they announce where the next one would be next year?
So I just learned this, they just bounce back and forth between Orlando
Back and forth? Okay, so it'll be
and
back
South
in
Florida.
Orlando.
And I think they use the same hotels each year.
Yes.
Every 2 years, it's the same hotels.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I do have those dates. I'm trying to remember if I put them out in the last weekly update.
For next year?
I summarized the meeting. I can't remember if I put the dates for next year. But the dates for next year are out. Actually, the dates and locations are out for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'll take a note and make sure I get that out.
Okay. Let's see.
August
Any more
19th through
questions on that
21st.
page? I've got I have to be done out of here in less than 10 minutes. I have an appointment in Orange Park.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
No,
The one thing I'll highlight on the last page is, let's see, where is that? It's Public Works. Hold on, let me find
What
it.
page number?
I'm sorry, well, I don't have, I just have the spreadsheet, it's the 31, page 31.
Page 31, okay.
If you look at 541355 vehicle equipment maintenance, this is under Public Works.
Okay,
Mid-year budget was 8,000, end of year amendment is up to 13, and then I go back down to $9,000 next fiscal year. What I did was take some of that unexpected revenue that's come in from these insurance unexpected income or grants. I applied it to making sure that we do a whole lot more maintenance on our vehicles and equipment. So as we got a mowing tractor that we've got up that we didn't build that maintenance cost in there, but we got an additional asset that's running. We need to look at the bucket truck. We need to look at the dump truck. And so I budgeted some more money into August and September to fixing our equipment that we haven't been doing as well as we should have. So just wanted to call your attention. It's not a massive budget issue, but it's a spike and a drop again.
do we know when the Nightingale culvert is gonna be finished?
I expect it in next fiscal year. The hard part about it right now is we're gonna get the agreement done. The hard part right now is working with one property owner that's got concerns about their easement. And if I could work through that, I have no concerns about getting the construction work done in a year.
One hurricane. Brooklyn's gonna be full. It's not just from the hurricane, it would be from all the water too that comes from Black Creek
Yes, sir.
because of that hurricane. We get one hurricane come through here.
How about tropical storm with a lot of rain?
Very slow travels.
Yeah, but
But no wind, no damage.
yeah, that's true. If only nature worked that way.
We're gonna dream this spring.
Okay. Alright. So, do we have, and I don't see it here, do we have in our next year, draft year budget, money to pay an HR consultant?
And we've got 6,000, no. Simple answer to your question, no.
So that would be something I would
Yes,
like
sir.
you to add to this budget.
You know, I just use your reference with paychecks as to go by. And it, like I said, you know, I don't know, I hopefully should get back to him, I'll call our office. But, that might be the one you wanna do, since you're already on board with them. Might be the easiest transition. And probably the least expensive. Would you say Workday? You got a quote from Workday at the meeting,
Yeah, really?
lowest entry level,
Yeah?
$100,000.
Oh, God.
No.
I saw Clay County use them, I'm like, oh, great. And then he told me, he's like, you really don't need to be talking to me.
I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Good?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.